Okay, well, let's now stay in the US, but focusing on American politics now, where the Democratic National Convention has just wrapped up after 4 days. I was able to catch up with Sky News US election analyst and former ambassador Joe Hockey just a tiny bit earlier. And I started by asking him generally what he made of Kamala Harris's speech.
Erin, I thought it was, it played to the crowd, but there was nothing in it. There was no policy substance in it. I think she focused on defining herself, which is understandable. I think there is still a lot of Americans that don't know who she really is and what she really stands for. And whilst she might have explained a bit of her history, she spent way too much time on Donald Trump. In fact, I've got to tell you, I'm completely over the fact that the Republicans spent 4 days talking about Donald Trump at their convention, and the Democrats have just spent 4 days talking about Donald Trump at their convention. So, frankly, it's a bit overexposed, and I would have hoped we'd get back to some real debate about the issues that matter, such as the cost of living, the southern border, which is a disaster and a disgrace, and security on the streets and fighting fentanyl and so on. But no, it seems to have been a policy vacuum.
Oh, it's fascinating, isn't it, Joe? Because you look at the two areas where Trump is the strongest, and I thought there might be some kind of plan to counter how weak they've been when it comes to cost of living and the border. But it's like they've almost just decided to ignore it completely. Do you think that they think the American people are dumb? Like if they just don't mention it, no one will know?
Well, it's like that. But, you know, the thing that surprised me this week is there's been virtually no discussion at all about climate change. I mean, in fact, it might have made up 0.1% of the speeches. Climate change at a Democratic National Convention. It just shows you, I mean, it's stunning for me. And what is that about? It just, Americans are not interested anymore. They simply want to know that they're going to have cheaper energy, and Donald Trump has a plan for cheaper energy, and Kamala Harris didn't say anything. So at the end of the day, I think there's just a complete mismatch on policy. But having said that, Donald Trump is feeding the Harris beast by talking about her personality rather than talking about her lack of policy.
Oh, absolutely. He does not need to look any further than her record, doesn't he? Now, I wanted to ask you, you were at both conventions, both very different. Who won out of the Republicans and the Democrats in your eyes?
Great question. I think the Republican convention was better organised, but there was certainly more momentum and enthusiasm at the Democratic convention. And why? Well, let's just go back to the most extraordinary 2 months in American politics. You had the assassination attempt on Donald Trump 2 days before their convention. So it completely recast the Republican convention. There was enthusiasm, but it wasn't unbridled. It was tempered by the assassination attempt. And then, just a few days later, Joe Biden shocks everyone by announcing that he's not going to run again. The Democratic National Convention still put out policy papers today which refer to President Biden's agenda for the next 4 years. For every night except this night, the main speaker has come on so late in the evening that half of America has gone to bed. Right? So, you know, it's ridiculous. They're scheduling problems, their logistical problems, and their policy documents all are reflective of a dysfunctional party. First time today we had a Hispanic. They're a big chunk. The Hispanic community in the United States is 2.5 times the size of the African American community. And yet today was the first time after 3.5 days where anyone actually referred to the Hispanic community.
A final question, Joe. Given you just spoke about the last 2 months, which have been, well, unbelievable in US politics, do you look at where we're now at with the polls, where Kamala is and the momentum behind her at this stage? Was the Republicans' continuation of this narrative that Joe Biden was not capable of going on, let alone running, continuing as president, that maybe it's turned into a bit of an own goal for them? Because surely they'd still be miles ahead if he was still running.
Well, that's right, and they were. And at that time, people would say to me, who do you think is going to win? And I'd say, well, it's certainly looking like the Republicans are going to win. Today, you'd say it's too close to call. It really is too close to call. Obviously, Kamala Harris is going to get a bounce out of this convention. How many points? Not sure. But we're still in the pre-game activity. Really, it starts this weekend. And then goes for the full 70-odd days up to polling day. That's when the arm wrestle begins. That's when the candidates are running around the country. That's when all the volunteers are out door knocking. That's when the ads pummel the airwaves. I mean, both parties have now raised so much money that they can't actually spend it before polling day. Can you believe that? I wish we had that in Australia. I mean, it's ridiculous, But look, it's going to be. I mean, I'm just kind of grateful I'm not a swing voter in a key district in Pennsylvania or Michigan because, you're going to have more people coming to the front door than Uber Eats.